Here are 3 things that you need to know if you're going through a divorce and it involves real estate. First off, I want you to know that I understand that this can be a very difficult time that you're going through. A lot of people that are going through divorce just want it to be over with. But these 3 rules will make sure that when it comes to your home, you won't have any headaches down the road. So let's get started. Number 1, talk to a mortgage professional before your divorce is finalized. This is extremely important that you talk to a mortgage professional before you finalize the divorce, because once the divorce is finalized, we aren't going to be able to make any changes to make sure that you are put in the best situation possible. Now, I understand that if you are working with an attorney, that they are a professional when it comes to the legal field. But unfortunately, that doesn't mean that they understand and know all the mortgage guidelines and what needs to be placed in the divorce decree to make sure you're in the best case scenario. When you're going through a divorce and it involves real estate, there's some common outcomes in a divorce that typically pop up, such as one spouse is going to keep the house, or the other spouse is going to keep the house, or they're going to sell the home and split the proceeds. It's extremely important you talk to a mortgage professional because depending on which route you take, the divorce decree has to be set, formulated, and worded in a certain way. Number 2, make sure that whoever is keeping the home can qualify for a mortgage on their own. This is a common problem that we see. A lot of people will seek out a mortgage professional after their divorce has been finalized. And they'll come to us and ask us, hey, my divorce says I have to refinance the house within 6 months. And then they come to us and we find out they don't qualify for a refinance. It could be that they don't have the income to support the payment, or it could be that their credit's in a bad situation where they're not going to be able to refinance that property. So now we have a legal instrument such as a divorce decree, and they're not going to be able to live up to the guidelines within that decree because they don't qualify for the mortgage. So it's extremely important that if someone is going to keep the home, whether it's going to be you or your spouse, that you make sure whoever keeps the home can actually qualify within the time frame allotted in the divorce decree. You do not want to get into a situation where your spouse is supposed to refinance the house and they don't, and that house stays in your name until they can or until the home is sold. One of the major issues that can arise if the house is not refinanced and it remains in both of your names is if they do not make a payment or they skip a payment or are late on a payment, it's going to negatively impact your credit score, even though the divorce decree states that you are not obligated to make that payment. If your spouse is the one that's going to keep the home and they are unable to refinance the house into their own name, but they're still making all the payments on time, we can actually negate that mortgage payment from your debt to income ratio as long as the divorce decree states that your spouse is the one that's completely obligated to make that payment. It will not protect your credit if they don't make the payment, but we can remove that payment from your debt to income ratio if the divorce decree states that. And last but not least, number 3, understanding child support and alimony. When a divorce involves children, it's not uncommon to see that child support or alimony is awarded to one of the spouses. And it's extremely important to understand how child support and alimony can affect your ability or their ability to refinance the property and qualify for a mortgage. So let's say you are receiving child support. Even though the divorce decree states you're going to get a certain dollar amount a month from the spouse, you actually have to receive that for a certain period of time, and we have to verify that you've been receiving that child support. Obviously, there's sometimes in unfortunate situations where the divorce decree states that the one spouse is obligated to pay child support, but that doesn't mean they actually pay it. So they want to make sure that you're actually receiving the child support before you can use that to qualify as income on a refinance or a purchase down the road. The other thing that's important is to understand the age of the children that are involved. In order to use child support as income, you have to show a 3-year continuance. What that means is that if the child is 15 or older, more than likely we're not going to be able to use that child support that's being used for that one child because they will be turning 18 before those 3 years are up. And sometimes child support orders state that they're still obligated to pay child support as long as that child is in school. However, in mortgage guidelines, there's really no way for the mortgage company to know whether or not that child is going to attend school after high school in the future. The other aspect of it is if you're paying child support or alimony. This is going to be something that's going to go against your debt to income ratio. So if you have to pay $400, $500 a month in child support, we have to add that as a liability and make sure that your income will still qualify with that child support liability in your debt to income ratio. In the end, you can see there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to a divorce when it involves real estate. So make sure you focus on rule number 1, and that is to reach out to a mortgage professional before you finalize that divorce decree. Thanks, and I hope this information was helpful for you during this difficult time.